My name is Faith Permenter, and I'm delighted to be with you today to share a little bit about myself and to answer some questions for you. I'm currently serving as the elementary principal at Wellsville Elementary School. It's a part of Northern York County School District in South Central Pennsylvania. It's a K-5 building of about 240 students. It's one of 4 elementary schools in the district, and we have 2 instructors per grade level. During my time here, we've recently finished a building project that doubled our square footage. We've added a multiple disability classroom, which has enriched our school community greatly. Prior to being the principal at Wellsville, I served for 7 years as an assistant principal, and then I started my career teaching 2nd grade and had the opportunity to loop with my class to 3rd grade. My husband, who we got married in November of 2019, found out in January that his job is transferring him to Milwaukee to work with Social Security. So we anticipate a summer move, and that's brought me to learning more about education in Wisconsin and looking for opportunities where I might be able to meld my talents and skills with another district. And so for that, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to share more with you today and in hopes of getting to know you better. One of the things that drew me to Indian Hill School was the family-like approach. As I looked through the website and some of the pieces that have been placed online, I was impressed with the high expectations for students, nurturing students' talents and interests, partnering with families, the opportunities for the arts with music, art classes, and the environmental education piece really seemed to be pieces that aligned with some of my philosophies in education. The other component that I found very intriguing was the senior volunteers, allowing those community members to have a vested component and interest in the next generation. And this is something that very much aligned with how I had handled teaching when I was a teacher in a small community, where I would take my students to visit the local assisted living facility to share some of their accomplishments, particularly a butterfly release and some of their writing. And so I really appreciate that commitment to the community aspect and allowing education to be more than just what the students may encounter within the brick and mortar walls, but allowing others to kind of come in and to invest in the students who are going to be that next generation of citizens in the community. I stay connected with my families through Twitter, an electronic newsletter, video messages, as well as daily communication. I think it's so important to be able to be known and to get to know those that I'll be working with. And so one of the things that I would be happy to offer would be something such as, popsicles with the new principal, an opportunity for students to come and to meet me in advance of the school year. In addition to that would be something for the staff, maybe in a picnic format, something that's a little less intimidating than perhaps a faculty type meeting, but in a social manner to kind of get to know one another and to start to form those relationships. In my past experiences, one thing that's really worked well for me is to be able to see photos of the students, maybe through a yearbook format or through another type of publication like that, in order to start to learn names and faces in advance of the school year. This helps me in my memorization, making those connections, and I also find that when I'm able to greet students and staff by name, it certainly helps to build those relationships and speak to the fact that I care about them and I want to get to know them as people. Some of the other things that might be helpful as a new principal in trying to get to know the community would be to attend some of those community events that are meaningful and important to the community. As a leader, I strive to have servant leadership. I strive to be someone who is encouraging both of students and their efforts, and of staff and the effort that they're putting into caring for and instructing the students that are in their charge. Sometimes that encouragement takes the form of a cheerleader and celebrating the successes that they face and that they're accomplishing. Sometimes that encouragement takes the form of prodding and celebrating when they take a risk, that's something that might be new or innovative or different for a student or for a staff member. Curriculum, instruction, and assessment is such a key piece in my role, both as a teacher and as a principal. I began with my master's program in curriculum and instruction through the Pennsylvania State University, and through that then got my principal's certification. And I feel that that really prepared me for the role that I have. Through that program, we talked a lot about Jay McTighe's work, where it's backwards design, looking at the state standard first, and then from that, how are we going to help students to reach and master that standard? What are the strategies that we want to put in place to teach those concepts? What are the resources that we want to use along the way? And how are we going to start this off activating the students' knowledge, prior knowledge, and making it relevant for them? Through that, we've also talked a lot about how we can use David Seuss's work on how the brain learns to take those steps of instructing the students and making it rememberable and helping the students to have that process be something that is linked to maybe their learning style or those key things that we know about how the brain does recall information. It's also important to take the work of Robert Marzano and in regard to standards-based assessments and implement some of those pieces to determine if we've met the mark. After we've done all of those pieces of planning and instructing, then we want to assess the students and assess ourselves to know, did we accomplish what we set out to do and have our students learn the material that we were hoping they would learn? And then from that, taking a step and reflecting, determining whether we need to reteach, whether we need to enrich, or whether we're ready to take on another concept. And so that type of work has been very much a part of my time as a teacher and as a principal. I've been part of writing curriculum for both math and for reading. We're currently in the district I'm in working on rewriting our reading curriculum and looking at how we're going to help students, particularly in the area of word work, since this is an area that our benchmark data shows that our students need more instruction. And so we're taking a look at different resources that are out there, different instructional strategies, and trying to look at our data to determine what would be the best fit. As an elementary school at Wellsville, 2 years ago, we had the opportunity as a small group of staff members to go through a training for multiple tiers of system support in the area of early literacy. So we took our data in the areas of kindergarten and first grade, and we looked at how our students were performing and really analyzed that data down to the different standards and skills that the students were being assessed on. Then from that, we worked as a team together to talk about where were our strengths, where are our weaknesses, and what interventions or new techniques could we put into place in order to bolster the areas that we saw as weaknesses. In my current role, one of the things that we've done to enhance the collaboration among staff and families is to establish what we call a profile of a learner. And so it kind of has given us a foundation of where we want our students to be, centered around 8 C's or 8 competencies that we want them to come away with. And so as we think about collaboration and fostering that among staff and families and students, it's important that we have a shared goal. And to do that, it's important to create that vision of where we want to go and where we want our students to be able to go. From there, it's important to have that provided time and opportunity for staff to gather in order to collaborate together. And for this, it's really helpful if there's a shared point of time in the day that the staff can gather And then through that time, it's important to cultivate that team approach, whether it's recognizing the strengths of the members of the team and highlighting those and allowing those to shine. Some of the things that I've done this year is we were striving to infuse the competency of critical thinking for our students, one of those profile of a learner components. And so at a staff meeting, we talked about some of those critical thinking strategies that can be incorporated into a teacher's lesson plan. We reviewed those together, and then the following month when the staff met, we had an opportunity for everyone to share the strategy that they had implemented in their classroom during the prior 4 weeks. As the staff members shared those things that they had done, it actually helped to incentivize and inspire some of their colleagues to try one of the different strategies. And so we set some goals together. Each staff member recorded a goal that they had for a new strategy that they'd like to try in the month following. And then we created kind of a pineapple hospitality board of sorts where a colleague could say, you know, this is a strategy that I'm doing in my classroom to promote critical thinking, and I'm open to having a colleague come and observe that in my classroom. So I was more than happy to go in and do some classroom coverages for staff members to be able to do those peer observations of one another. And it's just finding ways to support the staff as well as the students in developing those collaborative skills, and also to build that trust, not just trust between myself and the teachers, but also trust between teacher to teacher, so that they're willing to rely on the strengths of their colleagues to support them in their learning and growing as an instructor. As a staff, we've also worked together as a multiple tiers of systems support team where we come together to meet the needs of a student of concern. So for instance, if there is a student that a teacher is concerned about, and perhaps the benchmark data is validating that concern, we meet together with a learning support teacher, myself, the classroom teacher, a reading specialist, the parents, and any other staff person who might be involved in that child's education, whether that might be speech, learning support services, or any of those other components as well. And we'll sit together and talk about the student's strengths academically, socially and emotionally, behaviorally, and any other areas that we're noticing. And then we also talk about the needs that that student has in those same components. And together with the family support, we talk about what interventions we might be able to put in place. What things might we be able to do to support the student in their areas of weakness? Or why is the student showing a weakness in this particular area? And together we brainstorm as a team. And then we talk about how we can basically continue those interventions and work with that student moving forward for the next several weeks. In that process, different staff members come alongside that student and provide different areas of support and modeling. Through that, then, we gather again as a team several weeks down the road to review what might have changed as a result of those interventions. And we talk together with the parent again to see how can we better support you and your child both in school and out of school. And the process can sometimes take several weeks, but certainly we want to do our due diligence in meeting the needs of the child and working together, each staff member kind of yielding their strengths. And through that process, also getting to know that student better, whether it's in the area of their learning style, what might work for that child better, as well as maybe what motivates that child. What incentives can we put in place for them meeting goals to help the child develop some of those intrinsic and those extrinsic motivators in their world. And also looking at how can we celebrate that success as the child meets goals. My personal mission statement: you matter, every child, every day. I love to find ways that I can model and demonstrate for our students those expectations we have for them, and then find ways to celebrate their success, whether it's through a high five, whether it's through their academic success of looking at what they are doing in the classroom, or whether it's emphasizing the character trait of focus for the month that I've tied in with a piece of literature and provided to them every day through their WeTV messages. And then also reminding our staff of our shared purpose to collaborate, to innovate, to be a team and help our students learn. It has been a pleasure to share with you today. Thank you so much for this opportunity.